We've got the president of basketball operations, and I would like to say old friend of the show.
Yeah.
Old friend of the show.
Brad Stevens.
Now he's all grown up.
Do you miss our weekly chin wags, Brad? You must.
I don't. Yeah, I do. Now, Christian and our PR group have me working all the time, so it's it's hard to find that noon time on a Wednesday.
Sure is, huh?
You're always welcome here. I just want to say that up front. You're always welcome on the show. Anytime you feel like picking up the phone, we'd be happy to have you.
I think you guys have a good thing going with Joe. Joe can be.
We like Joe.
We love Joe.
Yeah.
Joe's great.
He's a different cat, man.
Oh yeah.
He's wired differently.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen very many people that work like him that are competitive. Like he is very, very driven, very focused on learning and growing, and we've had a really good preseason and training camp, and I think he's had a lot to do with setting the tone for that.
How much trepidation was there, though? I mean, when he took the job at the start of last season, he's obviously in the organization and you know him, but taking over as head coach, that's a different animal. So there had to have been at least some hesitation or factoring in the unknown. It's like, well, how's this going to be?
Well, of course, and it was a unique time, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think that, you knew he was a great leader. That's very clear. Like, very clear. Can galvanize a room, is unbelievable in the film room, great on the court, all that stuff. He's a concise communicator. So he's a person that can get his point across. And, all of the guys really believe in him. And because it's not about being perfect. It's not about having the most experience. It's about working to grow and get better and showing that you really care about him, right? And so, and he's great with all that stuff. And, I thought he did a really good job in year one. As I've said many times, if we're going to have a bad week of the season, I hope it's not in May. That was just an unfortunate little run there. But hopefully we can knock that out at some other time if we're going to have one.
So the last time we talked to you, you were obviously head coach of this team. Now in a
that was the
different
last
role.
time we
That's
talked.
the last time we spoke.
With us, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. And Al Horford did an interview a couple of days ago with NBC Sports Boston. And when talking about you, he said you are completely different as a GM than you were as a coach, that you had certain strategies as a coach, certain feels, but you went about it in a different way. And he said, now as a GM, I feel like Brad sees things 2 or 3 steps ahead of everything. He said he sees 2 or 3 steps ahead of everybody else, it seems, and we're looking at something, but he's looking further down the line. And he said also that he has full trust and confidence in you. So if you got a full endorsement from Al Horford, but he said now you are seeing things in advance that maybe you weren't as a coach. Is that true?
I think that's the role, right? First of all, I don't think that I have, I see things like that. Maybe that's just a guy saying nice things to the media when he's asked. But I do think that that's the role. The role when you're in coaching is you're in the weeds. You are coaching every play as far as how you want to guard certain actions, the techniques your guys are using, what we need to work in practice to build those back up, what you want to run on the other end of the court to take advantage of your matchups and everything else. And you are in play by play by play until the game is over. And then you're thinking about the next game. And, as we talked about Bill, or like you're preparing for the next game. Yeah. Like you never get out of it. It is however long you play, let's say 8 months, 9 months, whatever, it's an 8-month sprint. And then you take a deep breath, you debrief, you get your roster coordinated in the summer, and then you plan again for that sprint.
Or go to the beach with your son.
But you're and probably watching film in the morning. But but in this job, it is okay. You're looking at it much more at the 10,000-foot view. Okay, what do we really look like now? How is it? How are we going to be in the future? What are our CBA? The new CBA and all the restrictions that have come across and the challenges that have come across with that. How are we going to navigate and manage that? And you're thinking more, holistic, I guess, would be than in the weeds. I sometimes find myself as a coach, getting back in there, but I don't miss that feeling.
Okay, so that's the most interesting thing to me. And I was going to ask you, when did it become most comfortable for you? Because everybody says when you're a ball coach, you're always a ball coach.
Yeah.
Did it help you make that transition that these guys that are out there playing, I actually had them as a coach, so it's going to help me in my transition?
Yeah,
where you got to keep things hands off to a certain point too.
And we've had two good basketball coaches, right? Ime and Joe, both really good, and so like those, like I haven't really missed that side. I miss teaching at this time of the year when you really get to practice and really get to teach and you really get to do those things. And I miss some of the in-game, moments, right?
Yeah.
But I also really missed, and as a coach in the NBA, I really missed the team building aspect that you got as a recruiter in college, where you get to identify like who can you bring in, how does it fit, what's too much, right? What's right, what's the right amount of people, and how it all fits together. So you get a little bit of that back, and so there's a little give and take there. But I have enjoyed this role and have learned a ton because, it's so much more, again, 10,000-foot view than the other role.
Okay, with the 10,000-foot view, which I understand you're looking down the road, but from a layman's perspective, looks like you guys are loading up for this season. I mean, with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, adding Porzingis and Drew Holiday, as much as you're looking toward the future, it really looks like you're committed to, wow, we've got a good team right now, and we're going to add to it. It feels like there's a sense of urgency about this season.
I don't think there's any question, but there's been a sense of urgency about our last several seasons, right? I mean, we've been in the mix, and you want to be in the mix, and it's hard to stay up there. You got to improve just to stay there. And then you got to improve even more to get to where ultimately we want to go. So we're cognizant of that. And, I think that you can say, and certainly it's right to say, like, we certainly want to be there this year. But, most of those guys are on long-term deals, and so that's, we are excited about the fact that, several of those guys that you mentioned are here for a while.
Sure.
And, we hope that we can keep all that core together for quite a while.
And you've added talent. You've got a very talented team. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But how much were the moves this offseason motivated by not just adding talent, but maybe changing the mix and the group and the dynamic that goes on the court, off the court, all of it?
I don't want this taken out of context, right? Because I do think like the people that we lost were really impactful and really good. I mean, Marcus won a ton of games here and did was really a good Celtic for 9 years, and obviously brought everything to the table and left it all on the court, and people appreciated him for that here. Rob Williams, we all saw grow and become a really good player here, right? Like Malcolm, and on down the line. So, like, I think that, those guys all gave us a chance to be where we've been the last few years, and we need to be thankful for that and recognize that's not a given this year. Like, you've got to go out there, perform, win in the regular season, and then win in the playoffs to even get back to the stages we've been. But we do think that this mix has a chance to do that. And to hopefully, give ourselves an opportunity to win it. But, I think adding Drew and, obviously Chris Stapps, you have on both ends of the floor just a dynamic that I think can really help us. And I do think that, one of the things for us is Jason and Jaylen are 25, 26, turned 26, 27 this year. Like, it's really like those guys have always been good leaders by example and will use their voices to help. Now it's like, okay, our voices we've got to use to help. We've got to make sure that we put our signature on this in every which way. And I think it's a good time for that.
It's their team. It's their team now.
Yeah, I mean, they're that age, right?
That's not against Marcus. Like, a lot of people look at it and say, well,
not at all.
Marcus was overbearing. But it seems like they did defer to him at times. When you're a team leader and you're in that locker room, one guy speaks. And it felt like it was Marcus's a lot of time.
Well, and I think the most important thing about that is Marcus, the reason why those guys are where they are now, right, is because of all the people that sewed into them, right? And Marcus was a huge part of that, right? And I think that's something that, Marcus was really good at it, and he'll be really good at it in Memphis. But those guys were, we'll lean on those guys quite a bit. We still have the old wise sage in Al, and when he speaks, everybody listens. And I think we're seeing a lot of that with Drew. I think Derek White having, more opportunity is a good thing. So we're excited about kind of how this all fits together. But we lost real guys that are real competitors that were really good teammates and people.
The evolution of Peyton Pritchard is an interesting one. He's gone from a guy who maybe struggled to get minutes at times to at one point reportedly asking for a trade, and now he's back on an extension. And how are you, looking at him as a player and how he's going to be a big part of this team now going forward?
Well, first of all, I think that Peyton is as hard a worker as there is. He's super reliable. He always has a chip on his shoulder. That's not going to change no matter what. New contract, no new contract, whatever. He's just he's a feisty, competitive dude. And, like last year when he was frustrated, he had every right to be frustrated. But he also was cognizant that, Brogdon's really good. White's really good. Smart's really good. But that doesn't mean that he has to accept that or feel like he can't compete with anybody on any given day. And it's obvious that he can. And for me, my favorite part about him is that he didn't feel bad about the experience because he wasn't playing or getting attention, or he just felt because he likes to play basketball. He just loves it.
He's the type of kid you would recruit to Butler if you were there, right?
I'd try to get this whole team now. I mean, we've got a whole team full of really good people. But yeah, I mean, when I left Butler, I know for a fact they went out to West Lynn and tried to recruit him, right? So it doesn't surprise you, right? I mean, he's tough.
Gym rat. Yeah.
And his coach raves about him.
And he can shoot.
Joe speaks glowingly about Peyton Pritchard.
He and Joe have a lot in common.
Yeah,
that's they could.
They got the crazy
if they
in a good way.
If they played 1-on-1, Joe wouldn't score because he can't shoot, but it would at least be entertaining.
Joe would win in a fight against anybody, I think, because Joe's not going to get drug out of the building. No, there's no way.
Well, he's learning all the moves too.
Yeah, we've heard.
I won't say how many moves he said it would take to kill any of us, but it was not that many. Yeah. He said he would do it in short order.
He had it all figured out.
Somebody asked me if I wanted to join him in some of that training, and I said, no, I'm good with golf. Yeah. We'll just have to figure out how to get better at the things we can control.
I'm sure you've got in your mind how this season goes well. The things that will happen to have this be a success. What's your biggest fear on the other side of that? That things
I don't ever think about it going well. I'm just preparing for all the normal.
So
and next Wednesday, we know it all starts. We know the overreaction on every which way starts. I mean, we went into last year's playoffs and said, we know after every loss, this is the narrative. I mean, it's not hard to figure out what the narratives are going to be after every loss or every win, right? And so how do we just navigate that as well as we can? I'm not worried about our team embracing roles. I'm not worried about our team, competing and really putting it out there to win. We'll have to navigate, a long season. Hopefully, knock on wood, we can stay healthy. But we're going to keep our eyes open and how we can help our team both within these walls and outside these walls and over the next 6 months or whatever, and try to put our best foot forward. But by no means do we think it's going to be perfect. And this is probably the part of coaching that I take with me. You don't ever feel comfortable. You don't ever feel like it's not super fragile. You're always alert to what's next, right? And so nothing's going to be a surprise, so we just have to make sure we navigate as well as we can and stick together. This is a really good group of people, coaches and players. I'm really excited about them, but we got a long road ahead.
Keep that ownership down nice and tight too, because after that first practice, they were sitting up here with you, and you wow, it's like greatest practice we've ever seen, man. It's going to be huge. You got to keep them in their seats a little bit.
It was a good practice.
What gets exciting?
It was a good practice. Yeah.
That's good. But
if you're here for 2 weeks, you'll see some bad ones too.
Oh, yeah. But what you describe is a real anxious existence as a coach or an executive.
No, it's just the way I think it's the way you have, and it's not. I might have described it as a fear of failure when I was 25 or 30 or 35 or whatever. Now that I'm in my mid 40s, it's more. It's just the way it is. You just have to be alert, and if you're ever comfortable, you're gonna get caught, right? The day you stop working is the day you stop being good, right? You just have to stay the course, put everything you got into it. Be ready to hit the curveballs and let the chips fall where they may.
When you say narrative, and you know what the narrative is going to be coming away from a loss, are you talking about internally amongst the team, or you just mean everywhere?
No, I think it's more just being able to say, okay, what's real. This is what we need to improve on. This is how we get there. The team, 99.9% of the time, right? Teams are in this sanctuary that we're in right here, that are all together, that never leave. That
Hive mentality.
Yeah, and this is like they really do connect on that, and they bond over that. But there's a lot of noise when there's expectations. There's a lot of noise when there's belief that your team is good, and being that from the first day of the season is a challenge. And so our guys, I think, have handled it really well throughout the years that have been here. We've added some guys, and Drew especially, he's been through it all. He's as good of a person and as well-grounded of a teammate as you could be around. So we think that we have the right people to navigate it. But I just think you have to be able to navigate the noise throughout the year.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a lot of noise. Everyone thinks they're going to win it all. Good luck.
Oh, is that right?
Hey, Thanksgiving's coming.
Let's just try to play well on Wednesday night.
Yeah, and Thanksgiving's coming, and tell Mrs. Stevens she got her pyro dish back. Pyrex, not
Pyrex.
Pyrex. Pyrex
Pyrex
dish back.
Yeah, and anytime
she
she
ever wants to send that
something
dessert, we're always available.
That's good. I'll let her know.
All right,
that's right. Hey, I'll see you. I'll see you guys in 3 years.
This guy.
We miss you. We miss you, Brad.
Mid-40s and running the Celtics. Good job, Brad.
Hopefully it's not 3 years again. Brad Stevens, Celtics president of basketball operations, with us here on Zolak and Bertrand.